The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. This is Nick Morell with Audio Video Export. It's my pleasure to bring this webinar together on behalf of the company. We've got with us today Ariel Gutierrez of Polaris Controls, who is the rep company for all things Lutron, as well as a couple of other brands that we carry, like iPort. And we're really excited. Ariel's one of the better presenters, and we're looking forward. We've got high expectations for what's going on. So, not to add too much pressure to you, Ariel.
Thanks.
Yeah, but we're gonna have a good time. Ariel's gonna be showing us a lot of great information about briefly about Caseta, but specifically focusing on RadioRA2 and RA2 Select lighting systems with Lutron, and we're really excited about it. And without any further ado, Ariel, can't see your screen just yet, but whenever you're ready.
All right, let's do it. All right, folks. Good morning. This is Ariel Gutierrez from Polaris Controls. I'm glad to be doing this for you guys today. We're going to be focusing on two products. One is called RadioRA2, and then its younger brother, RadioRA2 Select. I always like to start with building blocks. I tend to be very straightforward in explaining things and getting you the information that you need. So let's start here. This is where it all started. Lutron developed a hold on one second. Let me change screens. Lutron developed a technology in 1997. It was the first time that a radio frequency based lighting control system was developed. That was RadioRA, original RadioRA. The name of that product came about because Ra is the god of the sun in the ancient Egypt times. And so we were trying to control light using radio, and that was what RadioRA, where the name came from. Originally, that system worked in AM, where you're modulating the amplitude of the wave of the RF frequency, the wave itself, the amplitude of it. It worked in 418 megahertz, amplitude modulated. With the passing of time, they realized that probably FM, where you modulate the frequency, was a better transmitting protocol for their lighting control systems. So they came out with RadioRA2 with transmitting and receiving within the 434 frequency range, but instead of modulating the amplitude of the wave, they were modulating the frequency of the wave. So
I'm sorry, Ariel. I don't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure that everybody know, because I didn't mention it before. Should you absolutely have any questions, there is a questions window. I have myself, I have Jorge, and I have Elvin. Both Jorge and Elvin are really very knowledgeable and well versed on Lutron. So if you've got a question, feel free to put it in the question box. We will be getting back to those, and there will be a Q&A time towards the end. So make sure you put all questions in that box. Thank you, Ariel.
No problem. So RadioRA2 came out, I'm going to say it was probably 2008 when it came out. So the product was around as RadioRA, original RadioRA, for about 10 years. Then RadioRA2 came out. It was a better system in terms of how reliable it could communicate between one device and another. And it really made a difference. The way to program RadioRA2 was with a laptop instead of button programming and button combination programming like RadioRA original was. So that's where RadioRA2 comes from. What I'm showing you now is the name of the technology, of the proprietary technology that Lutron has, and it's called Clear Connect. And so every product that Lutron manufactures that has some kind of radio frequency communication associated to it uses Clear Connect technology to communicate between devices. So what Lutron did basically was purchase a frequency range within the United States frequency a radio spectrum, so that there's no other devices from any other manufacturers working within that frequency allocation. So this photograph that you see here is a comparison between what other radio frequency technology manufacturers offer, whereas Lutron offers one within the 434 controlled radio frequency landscape. So that's Clear Connect in 30 seconds or less. It's basically a proprietary signal that Lutron uses for all of its radio frequency enabled devices. So RadioRA2, what is RadioRA2? So it's a wireless lighting control system. It can control lighting, motorized window treatments, AV equipment, HVAC, security systems, and other equipment in a project. It can control a single room or an entire home, and it operates in a very stable platform called Clear Connect. All right, and it's ideal for both new and existing residences. So I could just take away the name of this chart. Instead of it being RadioRA2, it could be Caseta, it could be RadioRA2 Select, it could be RadioRA2. It really doesn't matter. All three systems do exactly the same thing up to now. So this is the one of the differences between RadioRA2 and the other devices. It can communicate with third parties using other ways. So I'm going to jump out of this presentation because I'm going to show you a more practical way to think about what RadioRA2 is. Okay, so I have here a Excel spreadsheet. Let me see if I'm sharing my screen. I seem to be sharing it. Yep, correct. So in this spreadsheet, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. It's something that I developed, and I'll show you where I was able to develop. And it's showing you the differences between Caseta, which is Lutron's starter radio frequency system, and RadioRA2. And so just from looking at it, you'll see that RadioRA2 has a lot more greens than reds when you compare it to Caseta. So I'm going to go line by line showing you the differences. So in terms of device quantities, Caseta can handle up to 50 devices, radio frequency devices on a system, and I'll show you what those devices can be. RadioRA2, if you combine two systems, you can do 200 of these radio frequency devices. The range is substantially more. It's 3 times as more with RadioRA2 than it is with Caseta, and that has to do with how both systems are structured in terms of repeaters and extenders. So with Caseta, you can have one bridge, you can have one extender. With RadioRA2, you can have one main repeater and up to 4 additional auxiliary repeaters. That's why I can do only 2,500 square feet with Caseta bridge, or with Caseta, because I only have one bridge and one extender. And I can do 7,500 square feet with RadioRA2 because I can do one main repeater plus 4 auxiliary repeaters, and then I can combine 2 simple RadioRA2 systems working together to get to the 7,500 square feet. So in terms of the types of loads that RadioRA2 and Caseta can control, so Caseta can do in-wall dimmers and in-wall switches, as well as table lamp dimmers and table lamp switches. That's it. It can't do fan controls. It cannot do graphic IQS. It cannot do wall box power modules or any of the radio frequency power packs that are available on RadioRA2. So you'll see just from looking at this table which of the two is more flexible. You can see that RadioRA2 is much more flexible. Also, in terms of keypads, Caseta does not have in-wall keypads other than the Pico remote controls, which we already know about. So Picos are radio frequency, battery operated, handheld, or wall mountable controls. And I'll show you what those look like. Whereas with RadioRA2, I have all the flexibility of having in-wall keypads, tabletop keypads, motion sensors, car visor transmitters. I can do a lot more. Shades, I can do shades with both Caseta and RadioRA2, radio frequency shades. Thermostats, I have a lot more flexibility with RadioRA2 in terms of the types of thermostats that it can do. And in terms of integration with third party, so Caseta can do integration with Sonos, and it's good that we're on the call with Audio Video Export because they are the Sonos authorized distributor for the region. So you can get your Sonos from AV Export as well. Integration is available with both RadioRA2 and Caseta using Amazon Alexa or Google Home or the Apple HomeKit with Siri integration. So in both cases, it's the same. The app that you use is different. On Caseta, the app is a very simple app. Everything that you do in terms of programming for Caseta, you do on the app. Whereas with RadioRA2, the app is only allows you to control the system, but there's no programming of the system using the app. It's very limited in what that programming can be done. So why is there a third system called RadioRA2 Select? And it really has to do with this Excel sheet. If you just look at it at face value, you'll see that there's a lot more green on the RadioRA2 column than there is in the Caseta column. So there's a lot more things available in RadioRA2 than there are in Caseta. So what Lutron did was basically they added a third system so that I have a little bit more flexibility than I do with Caseta, but I'm not opening up the entire stream of products available in RadioRA2 with RadioRA2 Select. So RadioRA2 Select basically has a limited amount of load controllers as compared to RadioRA2. So it's got in-wall dimmers and switches, just like Caseta. It's got table lamp dimmers and switches, just like Caseta as well. But it's adding fan controls to its fan of products that are available. Keypads still the same as Caseta. There's no in-wall keypads or that you can use. Shades is the same. Thermostat situation is the same. Integration is the same. The app that you use with RadioRA2 Select is the same app that you use with Caseta. Both are programmed using the app exclusively. There is no computer program that you need to download or anything specialized like that. So that's the difference between all three systems. Device quantity is one difference. Range is another difference. But other than the fact that it's got different repeaters to RadioRA2 and the fact that it does not do any keypads or graphic IQS, it's very similar to RadioRA2. So think of RadioRA2 Select as a happy medium between Caseta and RadioRA2 is basically it. I also have a copy of this chart without the colors so that you can just read it. And so now I'm going to jump to the use of the Lutron website, which is really one of my favorite tools out of any of the manufacturers that we do business with. So let's throw the website on the screen over here. So what you're going to see here is the Lutron website. It's just lutron.com. Within the website, and probably most people don't like to be on webinars when people are just showing websites, but just give me 10 minutes of your time so that you can see how good this website is. So you go to Lutron.com and immediately you go to this tab called Products. Once you are on that tab, you're able to navigate through the different products that Lutron has. And we're going to start with this one called Caseta Wireless. So all of these products have a very similar landing page. So Caseta Wireless, this is what the Caseta Wireless landing page looks like. And there's two things I want to show you here. Number one, there is a brochure that you can download. It's just a PDF, and so I'll show you what that PDF looks like. Here's a PDF. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller so that you can see the entire pages. And this PDF really shows you on the first page what Caseta is all about. It has an app. It has a bridge. It has Pico remote controls. It's got in-wall dimmers and lamp dimmers. That's it. If I jump through the different pages, you'll see how easy it is to set up. And with Caseta, you do need to have Wi-Fi in order to be able to use your phone. Thankfully, AV Export is also an authorized distributor for Luxel products. I have Luxel in my house. It works very well. It's very simple to install, very stable, very reliable. So that's a good switch and a network product that you should be looking at if you're not already. So anyways, you'll see how easy to install an in-wall dimmer or switch is. Then after you do the installation of all your dimmers and your loads, you plug in the bridge to the router, and then you run the free Lutron app to set up the bridge with the wireless dimmers and switches, as well as the Pico controls that you see here on the right side of my screen. So here you have what the dimmer for Caseta looks like. It's a very intuitive dimmer. This top button is on, this bottom button is off, and then the up and down is just where I'm gonna dim the load to. This is still another dimmer. I'm sorry. This is now a dimmer that has a favorite on it. So this is on, this is off, this is raised, this is lower, and this is a preset scene that it's gonna have.
That's how I have mine set up at my house, where I've got a favorite just at 1%. So if I'm all the way at 100% and I don't want to turn it off and then go up one, I've got it at 1% just so that I can not hit my foot as I'm trying to go to the kitchen.
Yeah, and that's the use of the preset scene is what you're gonna use that dimmer for mostly. If you have a bathroom, for example, a bathroom is a great place for a preset dimmer. So you just press a button and the dimmer goes to a specified light level. This is what the switch looks like. So the top button is on, the bottom button is off. This is what the plug or lamp plug-in dimmer or switch looks like. This is on, this is off, this is raised, this is lower.
And Ariel, it's that particular lamp dimmer that works as the range extender, no? Because I think that was a concern that many people have had.
So if you look at this table that I have here, you'll see that I have something called a range extender on this line. It's only available in Caseta, and what it is basically the use of this lamp dimmer. You can tell it in the app that you also want to extend the 30-foot radius coverage that the Caseta bridge has. So it's a cool device. It can do a lot of things other than dimming. Here's what a Pico looks like, and the Pico that you see here is in 3 formats. It's the same Pico. You're just adding additional attachments to it to make it work differently. So this is a handheld version. This is a tabletop version on a pedestal. This is a car visor clip, and this is a wall mounting kit for that same Pico. So the Pico provides you with flexibility in Caseta, in RadioRA2 Select, and in RadioRA2, as well as with other Lutron systems like Graphic IQS, wireless shades, and so on. Here's a 4-button version of the Pico, and the 4-button version can be 3 scenes plus off. It can be 2 groups of scenes of 1 favorite and off for one group, and another favorite and off for another group. It can be full on, off, raise and lower. Depends which one you order. Here's the Sonos integration, and Pico does offer a remote control for Sonos, so that you have a Sonos control on the wall. You do need to have a bridge on the system in order to use this Pico. Here's some examples of Pico with engravings. Pico comes with some preset engravings, be it words or be it icons. You can also have those Picos custom engraved for an additional fee as well. Here's what the bridge looks like. Notice a bridge is always with a Wi-Fi access point router next to it. Here's the app, and here you're using the app on the phone to program the bridge and the different devices on the Caseta system. There is integration, as I said, to the HomeKit and Siri. So here's the Apple Watch using the app. You do have the opportunity to install window treatments or shades. Audio Video Export has access to these shades, and they can help you specifying and selling these shades. There is integration with some thermostats. Here's one that's available from Lutron, but it will also work with Nest, with Ecobee, with Carrier, with some Honeywell products. There are some HomeKit enabled fans from, for example, Hunter, so that you're able to control the fan directly from the Lutron app via the HomeKit. And here are different things or systems or apps that the Caseta can interact with at the phone level. So, if, for example, if you have the IFTTT, if this then that app on your phone, you're able to use the app for Caseta, as well as, let's say, your GPS on your phone, to activate things like geofencing, so that when you're at a certain distance from your house, or when your client is from a certain distance from their house, both apps, the GPS on the phone and the Caseta app, can interact and create a welcome scene in that house. So here's a list of the things that it can work with: Xfinity Home, Nest, Logitech Harmony remote controls, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, etc. Here's some pro level integration. So Caseta is available with 2 distinct bridges. One is a Smart Bridge. The other one's a Smart Bridge Pro. My recommendation is to always buy the Smart Bridge Pro. It's only a few dollars more, but the Smart Bridge Pro allows you to integrate with all these systems. And Audio Video Export is also the export distributor for URC. So
Those are some pretty important compatibility reports there. So you got, obviously what we sell URC, but Lutron is fairly agnostic in that. And then in the last page, Audio showed that works with Sonos. That's a new badge that Sonos has created. That's pretty unique. Not everybody has that, and there is only one control system, one automation system that currently has that badge right now, and that is URC. So there are lots of other good control systems that are out there. There will be more that are being added to the list. C4 does not have that badge yet. URC is the only one that does. But we're talking about Lutron here, and Lutron also has that badge. So that's an important distinction. So does with the launch port, where you've got the iPort, which is another brand that we keep in stock here that we buy through RDA. The Express, for instance, those are works with Sonos approved and have the badge.
So here is another piece of information on this brochure. It gives you pricing. This is all MSRP, and you'll see the availability of dimmers and switches on this sheet as well. It also comes in 4 colors, so white, ivory, light almond, and black. And here are some accessories like the pedestals and the car visor clips, etc. You'll see here information between or showing the difference between the Smart Bridge and the Smart Bridge Pro. You'll see it's a $40 difference MSRP. So my recommendation is to always buy the Pro. And there's some packages that are available just to make the ordering process simple. And here's some information on those packages. So if we look at a Pro kit, let's do a simple kit of. So here's a Pico remote. Here is a in-wall dimmer with a wall plate and a Smart Bridge Pro, and you'll see that the MSRP on that is $200. So it's a very accessible system to do small systems like for home theater, or you can do apartments or condos, or you can do certain houses with it too. So that's what the Caseta brochure looks like. I'm going to show you a practice that I've developed over the years. So every time I look into anything PDF on any of the manufacturer's websites, I save that document. And in my case, I save it to a Dropbox, which is mirrored to my local drives. So within the Lutron products directory, you'll see all of the information that I've downloaded over the years for different systems. So, for example, for Caseta, if I look for Caseta here, here's Caseta, and I want to add that Caseta brochure. The last time I added it was in 2017. I want to show you where to look for the actual. So every Lutron literature has in the back of it a part number, and you'll see that the part number here has a revision N. I was looking at revision A back in May 21st, 2017. So I'm going to save this brochure as a new file, and so that I have the most updated information. So anyways, that's Caseta. Little by little, you can create your own library. I'll show you what that library looks for me. I have things here from, for example, this is a long time ago. So this that you see here is from 1992. I have here a installation guide for a system that Lutron no longer manufactures, but it's easily accessible to me, and so you should do something like that for yourselves. Anyways, going back to the website for Lutron, I showed you where the brochure is. Now I'm going to show you where to find information on the actual devices. So on this left-sided menu, I asked for the product's specification submittals, and here I can look for a lot of information. For example, if I want to see in English the specs on the Smart Bridge Pro, I just go to this other page. I select English, and here's information on what that Smart Bridge Pro looks like. What's the difference between one and the other? Here's some regulatory approvals, dimensions, range, pinouts. So that's something as simple as a bridge. If now I want to see what dimmers and switches look like, so let me go to this dimmer here in English, and I can have a graphical representation of what those dimmers look like. Regulatory approvals, the loads that they can handle. So if I'm looking for magnetic low voltage dimmer, The minimum load that it's going to need is 25 watts. And this is a part number for that dimmer and what that dimmer can do. In that case, it was a switch that I was showing you. If I want to see a dimmer, here are the dimmers over here. So anyways, all of these spec sheets are the same. They'll give you general information on the devices. Then they'll give you more technical information of what it can do, how to gang it together, what the different buttons on the control is going to do, how to install it, what the dimensions are, and most importantly, how to wire it. So I answer a lot of questions on wiring for people, and every time I'm asked, I go to the website and I look for the information because it's really readily available there. So if I wanted to save this, I can just, save it as a PDF to whatever folder I want to do, and I've already shown you how to do that. All right. So back to Caseta, same thing with the remote control. So if I want to see Picos, for example, and this is going to be important because I can have Picos in both Caseta and in RadioRA2 and also RadioRA2 Select. So here's the spec sheet for Pico, regulatory approvals, dimensions, what the different buttons do based on the configuration. So for lighting, for the part number that ends in L01, you'll see that the bottom has an open light bulb. That's for off. That's for on. If you're using this kind of appliance module controller, the L02, that's what these do. If you're doing screens, that's what these do. And so on and so forth for the different model types that you have. Here's how to put together a part number. So PJ2 is always Pico. The button configuration, either 2B or 2BRL, that's two buttons raised and lower, or 3B or 3BRL. Then the color that you want. And finally, the marking code on the buttons, and you'll see what those marking codes look like. So for example, I want it to be lighting and showing icons only. This is what that would look like, an L01. Pedestals, mounting options, car visor, and so that's Pico in 5 minutes or less. So I'm going to go back to my Caseta website. That was Caseta. Now I'm going to go back to the product landing page for Lutron, and I'm going to go to RadioRA2 Select. And so RadioRA2 Select, same kind of landing page. Here's a brochure for RadioRA2 Select. And we're just going to go one by one. So doesn't really show you a lot what RadioRA2 Select does on the front page as it did in Caseta. And that's done in purpose. Caseta was developed by Lutron really to attack the mass market and to get the brand of Lutron out there. So a lot of the marketing behind Caseta is really directed to the end user and not to the professional installer like yourself. Whereas RadioRA2 and RadioRA2 Select is really more dedicated to the custom integrator like yourself. So it gives you some pictures of what a Caseta home looks like, or what a RadioRA2 home looks like. I think this is Nick's house. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
And you'll see here what what the front end of a RadioRA2 Select system can look like. This is just a 4-button Pico like we saw before. It looks like an in-wall keypad, but it's really a battery operated Pico remote control. This is an in-wall dimmer for RadioRA2 that you can use in RadioRA2 Select. These are just all Picos, and you'll see here a 3-button Pico with raise lower for lighting, a 3-button Pico with raise lower for shades, and a 3-button Pico with up and down for Sonos, all in one box. And you'll see on the bottom right how that Pico installs using a wall box adapter. And you'll see here that, now I forgot, now you can use radio frequency sensors for RadioRA2 Select. So what do I have here? I have a Lutron GFCI receptacle that you can also purchase through AV Export. Here's a RadioRA2 dimmer. Here's a wireless motion sensor for ceiling or for wall mount, and those are available at AV Export too. These are Picos with pedestals. These are the color possibilities with Pico. Here's the system components. So here's a Pico scene keypads. These are the Pico remote controls for lighting, for shades, and for audio using Sonos. Here are the different load controllers. And you'll see pictures of the dimmers, of the switches, of the fan speed controller, of the occupancy and vacancy sensor, of the Lutron wireless thermostat. Keep in mind you can use Nest as well. Of the plug-in tabletop lamp dimmers, of the appliance module, and this is something that Caseta does not do. So an appliance module is this module that you see here. This module is meant so that you can plug in a power strip to it. That module can turn on and off up to 15 amps of current. So if you have large appliances that you'd like to turn off, so for example a plasma TV that you want to ensure it's off, because in its off state, in quotes, it's still consuming about 5 watts even if it's off, so you can do that. Here are some accessories that are also available from Lutron through AV Export. Here are the shades that are available. And here's what the app looks like. And it looks very similar to the Caseta app. All of the programming is done on the app, not on a computer. Here's the integration partners. So very similar to what Caseta did. And here's the information regarding ClearConnect. And if I wanted to save this brochure, I do exactly the same thing as I did before. So I can do that now into my library. So where's RadioRA? RadioRA2 is here. I don't have a RadioRA2 Select, so let's do RadioRA2 Select. And boom, now I already have the information for RadioRA2. So I go back to the website, and as I did before, I can come to this window. I can come to this window here, and I can go to Product Specification Submittals. And it's going to navigate to the similar window that you saw with Caseta. And you'll see that the model numbers that you see for the dimmers and switches are the same as for RadioRA2, because it is exactly the same device. So the only thing that RadioRA2 Select is doing is eliminating the use of keypads from RadioRA2 and doing everything with Pico remote controls. It's basically it. There's some limits to how you can expand the reach of the repeaters with RadioRA2 Select than with RadioRA2, but it's a very, very similar system. So if I want to see what the main repeater looks like, I go to here. In RadioRA2 Select, the main repeater is black. In Caseta, the bridge is white. So that's an obvious difference. So here's the specifications, size, range, and here you can look at range for RadioRA2 Select. So it'll do 9 meters or 30 feet maximum radius. And you can add additional wireless repeaters, up to 4 of them, to expand the reach. And here's a connection to that main repeater. Notice that it has that Ethernet port, so that it has to be installed using an Ethernet switch with Wi-Fi for phone access. And so that's it with RadioRA2 Select. So if I go back to my Excel sheet and I go to this sheet over here, you'll see that it's very similar to RadioRA2, except that I don't have the keypads and I don't have certain load controllers that I have in RadioRA2. I also don't have certain thermostats as I do in RadioRA2. So it's a happy medium between Caseta and RadioRA2. That's what RadioRA2 Select is. So going back to my website, I'm going to go back to the landing page for Lutron. And we'll see here RadioRA2 right here. And RadioRA2 also has a brochure. So again, here's this is George Ocampo's house that you see here on the first page. Very humble. And so this brochure is even more geared towards a professional installer like yourself. RadioRA2 gives you the addition of keypads, as I mentioned before. So this is one style of keypad called a Graphic T. This is another style of keypad called a C-Touch, 3 buttons with raise lower. This is a tabletop keypad, again available only in RadioRA2. Here's that appliance module that I was talking about before. This is another 3 button with raise lower keypad for RadioRA2. Tabletop RadioRA2. In-ceiling sensor. Here's the different colors and styles. So this is the architectural style for RadioRA2 with its color. This is the designer style, showing C-Touch, Maestro type dimmers and switches, receptacles, phone jacks. Here's the different colors that it's available in. And here are the components, and you'll see with RadioRA2 I do have the ability of having in-wall keypads. So these are some of those keypads. These keypads are engravable. So when you have a project and you order the keypad, Lutron sends you an engraving form, an engraving credit, so that you can have those keypads engraved at no charge. Here's a tabletop keypad with a garage door transmitter to be able to control the system from your car. Here's the Picos that we saw before. Here are 2 distinct styles of keypads. This is a C-Touch. It's got 6 buttons with raise lower. This is a Graphic T. It's got 4 scene selections. This is a Maestro type designer opening dimmer versus a Graphic T type dimmer or switch. These are light controls, and these are available in RadioRA2 Select. These are graphic eyes. So a graphic eye is basically a preset multi-zone lighting controller. So the one that you see here on top has 6 lighting zones on it. with 5 scenes on the right, and then you're able to have shade presets on the left. Fan speed controls and occupancy sensors. Thermostats, and you see there's different types of thermostats available. Lutron has its own proprietary HVAC controller as well. Shades that we've talked about before. And then this shows you what a typical system will look like, where you have shades, fan controls, in-wall keypads, auxiliary repeaters, visor control receivers, visor control transmitters, graphic eyes, dimmers and switches, ceiling ceiling motion sensors, main repeaters, a connect bridge so that you're able to do things with RadioRA2 that you could do with Caseta and RadioRA2 Select from the box. So this connect bridge that you see here for RadioRA2 allows you to do geofencing and allows you to integrate to the Homekit. Without this, the main repeater does not integrate to the Homekit. So anyways, here's open integration, and again you'll see URC listed here. You'll also see Dana Innovations, which is a launch port. You'll see Nest. You'll see Sonos. And here's what that app looks like. And this is the app on an iPad. And again, these are the part number for this brochure is available here. So one big difference between RadioRA2 and RadioRA2 Select is how you program it. And RadioRA2 uses a software to do the programming. And we can probably spend an entire webinar going through that software. I don't really have time today to show you that, given I only have an hour to talk. But I do want to show you something important. So there is a brochure that I'll show you from the landing page that shows you a lot of different things regarding these three systems. And if I go to on the RadioRA2 page, if I go to can I add sensors to my RadioRA2 system, it's going to take me to a special place. And that special place will allow me to see what the differences are in the different types of systems. So here's this brochure. And this brochure that you see here is what I used to build the Excel sheet that you saw before. And I'm going to end this talk today showing you this brochure. So here's a brochure, and this is a system comparison brochure between Caseta, RadioRA2 Select, RadioRA2, and a system called Homeworks QS. So if I go to the next page, so you'll see that this chart that you see here is very similar to this chart that you see here, except mine is way less informative than the one at Lutron, but it gives you a very simple glance of what those systems can do and cannot do. So I'm going to go to the Lutron one, and it shows you, what kind of design, the size of the system, what the load types, what they look like. And if I go to, for example, this page, it shows you, so Caseta Wireless, what's the target market? It's this market. What's the coverage? It can do up to 2,500 square feet with 50 devices. What are the capacities? One bridge, one extender, 50 devices, etc. I can do the same for RadioRA2 Select. So 1 main repeater, 4 auxiliary repeaters. I can do up to 100 devices. I can only do dimmers and picos. There's no keypads associated to it. Here's what RadioRA2 can do. Here are differences in model numbers. So this shows you, okay, so designer radio frequency wall dimmers, these are the model numbers. What's available in the different product families: Caseta, RadioRA2 Select, RadioRA2. Eric, I'm going to answer your questions at the end of this, but I have them noted here. So I can go through every system, every kind of available device, and see if it's available on that particular system or not. And you'll see that as I start going down the list, less things are available in Caseta and RadioRA2 as they are in RadioRA2. I'm sorry, RadioRA2 Select as they are in RadioRA2 and Homeworks. And so this is a good brochure for you to download. I'm going to send this to Nick shortly, along with the Excel sheet, so that they can send this to everyone on this call. But you'll see this brochure really has a lot of information pertaining to system capacities, what devices will look like, how the programming is done, what kind of logic I can use on the keypads for RadioRA2 and Homeworks. So there's a lot of information on this in this brochure. It's a 24-page brochure. I highly recommend that you have it. And so that's it for this brochure. I already have it saved, so I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to briefly show you what the RadioRA2 software looks like, so you can see it. Meanwhile, I'm going to answer a question over here. So Eric, does the signal from the bridge behave itself like a normal Wi-Fi signal? Every brick wall, for example, cuts 20% to the range of 9 meters. Okay, so this product was developed in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico uses the same construction as most of the Caribbean, which is cinder block and masonry. The 9 meters apply to that kind of construction. In drywall, that 9 meter limit, I've seen it grow to about 18 or 20 meters, but it really depends on the installation. Is everything also available in 220 volts? How I know this person is from Curacao. So no, the only thing that's available in 220 volts are the shades and the Graphic IQS devices. All the keypads, all the in-wall keypads are 120 volt only. All the dimmers, in-wall dimmers and switches are 120 volt only. You can do a system using Graphic IQS with Picos, and the 220 volt will not be an issue. So I'm going to log into Windows. I actually run Windows on a Mac, and I'm going to log into the RadioRA2 app. I'm sorry, RadioRA2 program. So I have the inclusive one that allows me to put 2 repeaters on it. And so this is the program that you need to use for RadioRA2 only. Let me see if I have an existing project in one of my... I don't think I do. So let's do a new one, and when I create a project, it asks me where the location is. I'm going to say US in Florida and Miami. It asks me for my information, who am I, etc. It asks me what colors I want to use on the project. and then it asks me what my rooms are in this house. I'm going to say that I have a master bedroom. I'm going to say I have a kitchen, and I'm going to say I have a foyer, and that's going to be my basic system. And so at some point, the RadioRA2 software will load its initial database, and once it does it, it's very simple. Here's the main repeater. It automatically adds the connect bridge because I've asked for it to do that automatically. So if I want to add a dimmer in the kitchen, I simply go to add device. I select the dimmer. I can say it's going to be on the control station 1. The zone is going to be the zone 1 on the plans, which is I'm going to call the kitchen downlights. Each one is 25 watts, and let's say that there's 5 of them. And so it'll add that dimmer on there. If next to that dimmer now I want to add a keypad, I can just add a keypad. And I want that keypad to be 3 buttons raise and lower, and so on and so forth. If I want to add a graphic eye, I come here and I add a graphic eye. Let's say it's going to be a 4-zone graphic eye, and I can add it there. If I want to edit what those zones are going to be, I can edit that here. Zone name, what it's controlling, etc. So this is a much more involved process than RadioRA2 Select or Caseta is. Again, RadioRA2 Select and Caseta are for programming using an app on a phone or a wireless device. RadioRA2, it's totally computer driven to program. Because it is computer driven, I'm able to do a lot more things in terms of programming that I can with RadioRA2 Select or Caseta. However, most of the things that people program can be done in Caseta and RadioRA2 Select. Are there any questions? It's a lot of information in an hour. It's 1 p.m. I want to respect your time. We can probably do another webinar for the software if you want, Nick. But that's the difference between all 3 systems. Any questions? Anything else you want me to cover?
No, I think that for now that's a great start. I think what we really want to do, the message that we want to drive home is, number one, where's the information? And you've done a really good job in order to be able to share where to be able to find that information. And then the other part is going to be that, audio video export. We're here. We're knowledgeable. I mean, Elvin and George, both of them are really have a lot of expertise with regard to Lutron. And then we've got Ariel, who is kind of like, the Lutron master designer. So whatever questions it is that we've got access to Ariel directly in order to be able to help you all out. There's no way that we would expect any of you to be able to design a full system on your first shot, using RA2 without going into a little bit more familiarity. But there are some courses that can be taken as well. Ariel, do you want to share that information?
Yeah, there are courses online that you can take. There are training courses that are available for live training as well. There is a schedule that's being developed by Lutron on that. They're available in English. There's some availability in Spanish for my friends in Curacao that are multilingual. And you can coordinate all of that through Nick or George or Elvin at Audio Video Export. There is a lot of information on Lutron Online on their website. I encourage you to use it. There's an attendee here. His name is Sean Alves, that I know has been to a lot of those courses. So I'm sure that that there's a lot of things that you can look up online as well as on the courses. So anything I can help you with, please let me know. Please let Nick or George or Elvin know. We're here to help. Thanks.
We appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much, Ariel, for sharing this with us, and thanks again.
All right, let's do it. Thank you.